Good morning, everybody. I am Manila Chan. That over there is Ted Rall. You are tuned in to the Ted Manila Information Show, or TMI for short, because we do bring you way too much information. Again, warning, F-bombs be dropping here. So maybe, crank the volume down if you're at work.
Or crank it up if you're tired of your job.
That we can help you with being unjobbed. You can join us in the
we're good at
unjobbed
that.
world.
Yeah, we're good at that.
Yes.
We know how to do that.
I got unjobbed twice during the Biden administration. Twice, Ted.
Oh, that's true. I've been fired, honestly. Laid off, fired, downsized, let go so many times. I seriously couldn't count. I mean, I could count, but it would take more time than we have here.
I've only been unjobbed twice. Every other job I've quit, just like every other relationship I've been in before getting married.
Wait, you were never dumped?
Not from a boyfriend. Maybe like if we're like just going on a few dates and we're not vibing. Yeah.
So yeah, that's not really dumped.
So, but not like a boyfriend.
Yeah, like
no, that's not true. That's not true. I just remembered one. I have been fully dumped by a boyfriend once.
What was the reason?
Did
you know the reason?
I don't think he knew. I don't think he knew because he sobbed like a baby and wouldn't let me leave. I mean, really, I could have pressed charges because I was
what?
I wasn't allowed to leave his apartment. Like doors were being blocked and it was very confusing. Yeah.
Oh, I've heard those stories.
Yeah. Just dumped me. Why do you want me to stay? Like why are you sobbing? Why do I have a big blob of tears and snot on my chest? Like, can I just leave now? Like, let me out of your apartment. It was tantamount to kidnap, Ted.
Yeah, for me, when I like, I feel like if I'm going to be dumped or unfriended or anything like that, just seriously, like, make it easy. Like, you can just send me a text.
Right, clean break.
2 sentences, done. You'll never hear from me again.
This isn't working out.
Ever.
Yeah,
ever.
Hey, this isn't working out. I wish you well. Goodbye.
Yeah.
I'd be like, oh, okay, cool. Although that's kind of how the Biden administration did us with our jobs. Just saying.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's a whole.
That's basically how that happened. So anyway, if you want tips on how to be fired, ask me and Ted.
Yeah, we should really do a show about being fired. Like, we could talk about our own stories about being fired.
Well, I would love to do like an employment episode because, as we know, like the jobs numbers, like when Biden left in January, all those numbers were bullshit. So we're due the quarterly report from the BLS is due very soon. And so I'm curious to see what those numbers look like because we learned, I think when you and I launched the Sputnik show, we learned that their numbers had been flubbed. Do you remember that story?
Yeah, I remember that.
And there was like some sort of leak or something. And we learned that the jobs numbers were all bullshit. But I mean, we already knew that as journalists, but I'm saying in the public sphere, somebody accidentally came clean about how, but anyway, the unjobbed numbers in America, I think, are coming out pretty soon. We should probably.
They're going to be pretty high because of Doge. And the economy is generally slowing down.
Yeah. Yeah. And as one of our regular viewers, Adrian, says, he believes the U.S. is coming, maybe the world, is coming up for a big, big recession very soon. And I agree. Call me a cynic, but I think the Ukraine war is going to continue. And I think the U.S. is going to hit massive recession and another type of housing bust here in the U.S. Not in the way we saw in 2008. But a different kind of bust, mostly because it was precipitated by the slowing down of housing because of COVID. But that's a whole different story. But I would love to do that. I mean, talk about getting hired, getting fired.
Yeah, I mean,
Americans are underjobbed.
Who hasn't? If you haven't experienced it yet, you will.
I think so. I think so. But anyway, we're live Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern time. So please, wherever you are enjoying or hating, throwing shade on this program,
Yeah, just keep watching though and sending money. In fact, the more you hate the show, you love to hate us. Send more money.
That's true. If you want the show to continue so you can continue to hate us.
Yeah, and we have several people, that
there are regular haters.
Yeah. I can't imagine that. I mean, like I don't understand that mentality. I would never, if I start to hate, probably the closest I've ever come was my subscription to the New York Times. I kind of generally hate the New York Times, but I read it every day.
Me too.
But otherwise, I mean, I can't imagine watching or listening to a show because I didn't like it. What for?
The New York Times is an anomaly, I think. I don't know. Maybe
the New Yorker is like that for me. I guess maybe
New Yorker and Atlantic.
Oh, the Atlantic is a total hate read for me.
I unsubscribed to them. I used to be a paying
And the Atlantic is, of course, at the center of today's story.
Yes. I used to get tote bags every year.
I'll tell you why. Tell me why you hate I'll tell you why I hate the Atlantic. Because as a writer, as someone who is a political writer, when I first heard about the Atlantic when I was a young man, I was like, it was, everyone says it's a very storied, his old magazine. And it's very well written and it's high quality content. And so then, and I think the first time I ever read anything was when that big David Stockman, the Reagan's, supply side guru did the big tell all about how it was all BS. Anyway, the point is you read it and it's kind of like, it's frustrating because you're like, oh, this is presented and marketed and framed as being smart. And then you realize, it is kind of smart, but it's also lies and spin, and the politics are execrable. I mean, it's like, it's the worst. I would rather read right-wing, totally far-right, right-wing, like Karl Rove, New York, Wall Street Journal editorial page, than read like neoliberal, flabby corporate Democrat crap. It's absolutely the worst because it has no integrity to it at all, no moral center. I'd rather have a moral center that I completely disagree with that has a moral center.
In the early 2000s, when I was an adult, I used to subscribe to both the Atlantic and the New Yorker. One, because obviously I was in California and, I was in the know. I was already a quasi-functioning journalist, just trying to paste together paychecks. And I used to admire them because they were these storied outlets, right? That have been around for like 100+ years.
And I would have loved to have worked there.
Me too. And I used to respect them, I guess, because of the storied nature of their history. Mm-hmm. And so I think I gave them the respect that perhaps at that point they should have already
And the writing's
lost.
pretty good. The quality of the writing is pretty good.
Right. The style and it's good. But the context of their stories, if you, especially looking back with a 20-year lens,
it's depressing because it's like it's a pretty high quality product used for evil. That's why it's so. I mean, if it's schlocky, if it's just someone's blog, you don't care.
When the Atlantic was like,
it's like you could have had class, you could have been
Bill
a contender.
Clinton.
Yeah,
like it's just stuff like that, like his foreign policy and stuff. That's when I started to drift away. But because I was in California and I thought I was, more, I had more political acumen than other Californians. I'm going to read these East Coast rags. Mm-hmm. That's what I thought. So that's why I was a subscriber. And of course you get the tote bag and then you sport it around when you shop at Whole Foods or Trader Joe's. So everybody knows that you're part of that, that liberal elitist.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. That's what I thought, when you're in your early 20s, you think that's what you want to do and let people know where you stand on things by sporting like, see, I subscribe to this. That's why I'm shopping with my hemp tote bag or whatever it was.
My communist friends at the time told me it was all bullshit. I was too dumb to believe them. Right. But they were right, of course.
They were, yes. Same for me and my libertarian friends. And then I drifted, I discovered Ron Paul then. And then I kind of,
we have a guest. Oh, we have stories. Yeah. We should.
Yeah. Well, this first headline we're not going to stay with, by the way, because if our guest does show up, our guest who we love, but because of the time difference.
In an almost sexual way. Could be.
Could or
maybe,
could not,
or maybe not. Almost.
Maybe,
but not quite.
Maybe.
Right.
So yeah, let's hop to that. Let me hit the jaws.
As Manila points out, this will be our main topic. Tyler Nixon is expected to join us at the bottom of the hour to talk about this. And of course, this is one of the major stories of the last few days. Washington is buzzing over that major security breach that had the editor of The Atlantic, Jeffrey Goldberg, mistakenly added to a Signal group chat that included Pete Hegseth, you might know him as Secretary of Defense, JD Vance, you might know him as a werewolf and the Vice President of the United States, and little Marco Rubio and National Security Advisor Mike Waltz. These dudes coordinated a war plan and sent real-time operational details about bombing the Houthis in Yemen, sharing classified information on the app, and nobody bothered to notice that Goldberg was hanging out. I kind of want to know, by the way, if Goldberg realized that he was on the chat and just kept reading it, or if he, as soon as he became aware of it, he immediately
No.
Okay, that's kind of wrong, I have to say.
Right.
But anyway, we can get into that. The Vance account, it's apparently Vance who originated it. If you think we should do it, let's go. I hate bailing Europe out again. And Hegseth's account apparently said, I fully share your loathing of European freeloading. It's pathetic, all caps pathetic. But Vance also suggested that the U.S. strikes against the Houthis were a mistake. I'm not sure the president is aware how inconsistent this is with his message on Europe right now, he said. I give Vance props for that. He's right about that. Waltz may have broken the law by including Goldberg, and using Signal for official communications may have violated the Espionage Act. There's an internal system that the government's supposed to use for that. We can get into that at the bottom of the hour. Republican and Democrats in Congress both said this was a big mistake. Democrats want Waltz to be fired and are demanding an investigation. Trump said he wasn't worried, said that he wasn't a big fan of The Atlantic, but then later on, when the White House said they were going to investigate, and Trump will decide whether or not to shit can Waltz in the next day or two. I don't think he will. When he has such trouble finding staff, it's kind of like he probably just won't. When asked about it, Hegseth called Goldberg a discredited so-called journalist. Then why'd you add him to the chat? Adding that
I wonder who they thought they were adding, because Mike Waltz originated, to be clear, Mike Waltz originated the chat group because he was asking for all of the top officials to give out the names of who would be the point of contact. And so Mike Waltz originated this. So I wonder who Mike Waltz thought he was adding to the chat.
I wonder if this is one of those things where it's auto-suggest, where Goldberg's name was close to the name. You start typing in G-O, and then you hit click too soon, and then it's like Goldberg, but it's really, I don't know, something else, G-O something else. Anyway, so he Hegseth lied, I would say, is fair to say, saying nobody was texting war plans. And actually, you guys were texting war plans.
We just saw it.
Yeah, you guys are lying. We'll get into all that at the bottom of the hour.
Yeah.
And it is an interesting story. Anyway, closer to home for me, as a Columbia University graduate who doesn't live far from Columbia University, a 21-year-old Columbia student, she's a junior, who's lived in the United States since she was 7 years old, is suing Trump and other high-ranking administration officials because ICE is chasing her down. She's on the lam. The student, Yunso Chung, has a green card, just like Mahmoud Khalil does, and she participated in the pro-Palestinian demonstrations at Columbia last year. The Trump administration says that her presence in the U.S., and I guess presumably anyone else's presence in the U.S. Who did anything similar, is screwing up their foreign policy agenda of halting the spread of anti-Semitism. By the way, I don't really think halting the spread of anti-Semitism, we'll just stipulate that that's a good idea, is a foreign policy agenda. It's a domestic agenda, okay? So I think just for that reason alone, on that technicality, all the court battles are going to fall apart. Marco Rubio cited the same rationale in the Mahmoud Khalil case. Khalil is, of course, being held in that for-profit gulag down in Louisiana. Unlike Khalil, Chung didn't have much of a prominent role in the demos. She was arrested this year at Barnard College, which is a part of Columbia University. It's across the street from Columbia. Chung, a high school valedictorian who moved to the U.S. with her family from South Korea when she was 7 years old, hasn't yet been caught by ICE. She's on the lam somewhere in the U.S. Her lawyers will not say where she is. Her lawsuit, by the way, they're arguing now that if she shows up at your house and you take her in, that you would be subject to federal prosecution as well for harboring her. Her lawsuit in federal court demonstrates the extensive efforts by U.S. immigration officials to arrest her. They, by the way, used a special warrant to break into her apartment. This is a new move on the part of ICE as well. Other types of arrests are more difficult. Federal agents claimed that their efforts were appropriate in this case, according to her attorneys, at a legal clinic at the City University of New York. ICE officials visited, I wouldn't say visited is really quite the right word, several residents, called for help from federal prosecutors, broke into her home and university housing on March 13th.
And that's a dorm, right? That's what they mean.
Well, it could be it's probably an apartment off campus, but it could be a dorm. But anyway, I'm not sure where she lives. At Columbia, you live either on campus in a traditional dorm, but the university owns apartments all throughout the neighborhood, and so some people live in what feels more like an apartment building, although it's university housing. So, okay. I don't know which she's in as a junior. It could really be either one. This is really very disturbing. I'm really happy for her that she's on the lam, and as far as I'm concerned, she can crash. She can crash here with me and Clovis anytime. And really, they can arrest me too. Like fuck them.
Oh, for housing, for harboring a fugitive, wanted criminal. Yeah.
I mean, look, just think about where they are here. I mean, this woman was she protested, but there's no allegation that she ever said anything anti-Semitic, which, by the way, anti-Semitism is protected under the First Amendment. Okay. But right. There's no allegation that she did that. She's a high school valedictorian. By the way, American high school, right? Not Korean high school.
Right. She came here when she was 7.
And she's American. If you came here when you were 7 and you're 21 years old, you're American. You're as American as anyone. And so she's smart, obviously, valedictorian. She's American, fully Americanized. They want to send her, back to South Korea? It's not back. She has
no memory of it.
Right. She would have no idea what to do.
For all we know, she doesn't speak Korean.
She may not even speak
Korean.
The
majority of my Korean friends can barely say a few phrases in
Absolutely.
Korean.
Yeah, most of my friends who are Asian who came around that age do not speak their native language. So, well, their native language is English, right? So it's disgusting. It's unconscionable. I hope she keeps several steps ahead of them.
But here's the thing, Ted, this is what bothers me is that you're going after protesters. I mean, we know that anything Israel related is, the third rail. You can't touch it. You know.
For sure.
This girl didn't do anything other than take part in demonstrations. So now
she expressed herself using her First Amendment constitutionally protected right to free expression Ted. On the campus of a school, of a college, which is where ideas, including controversial ideas, are supposed to be exchanged.
So let me ask you this. Even if you want to protect, the sovereign rights of Israel, even if you want to do that, the PR campaign, whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is this, Ted, the best use of our tax dollar resources that go into funding ICE to chase down one little Korean girl somewhere loose in Manhattan? Is this the best use of resources?
Well, that's a good question, right? I mean, let's say you're a Trump was elected in large part to try to address the problems at the border, right, and guard the border.
She's not a border threat,
and she's not a border, but these are ICE resources that are being diverted from tracking down actual illegal immigrants and deporting them, and instead they're going after she's a legal resident, fully vetted, of the U.S. She's as American as you and me, and she's being and they're going after. So that's a really good point. Like, if you're a MAGA person, you should hate this. You should say this is
hate that our money is being spent. I mean, if you look at payrolls, right, of all the people involved and the hours being lodged to go chasing down this one girl, this one college student, and all the, you know, all the green people out there, you should be pissed off that airplanes are being flown and cars are being driven all around Manhattan. Congestion fees be damned. Our tax dollars are
racking
paying
up
it.
those $9.
Our tax dollars are paying the New York City congestion fees all over Manhattan to track down this one girl that they can't find, who has not broken any laws. Like, on the face of it alone, the resources for any true MAGA populist, you should be pissed about that in and of itself.
That's true.
She broke no laws by being in this
By the way,
country.
just parenthetically, Manila, I was trying to figure out, I'm so frustrated every time I read an article about, you know, anti-Semitism on colleges, you know, the 700% increase in anti-Semitism on college campuses. And so I spent,
it's like BLS data.
I spent like 2 hours on Grok trying to track down if there's any actually sourced incident of anti-Semitism. In other words, a person whose name is attributed to it, like I, Ted Rall, saw or experienced an anti-Semitic act or statement on a college campus.
Well, no.
So guess what? When you eliminate all of the stuff that's not anti-Zionist, that's just actually anti-Semitic, there are 2 incidents in the United States that have taken place. One of them actually was in the context of a pro-Palestinian protest, and basically some Palestinians were trying to burn an Israeli flag, and then there was a physical confrontation over that. So I think that's muddled. I think that's not really, and they claim there was some anti-Semitic stuff that happened there.
That's the thing.
There's really one lady at Columbia who claimed that someone tore her Star of David necklace off her without she doesn't say if it was whether there was any words spoken before. So let's just say that it could have been thievery. But it really could have been thievery. So it's New York City. People steal necklaces all the time. But I mean, literally, I'm sorry. Is this a foreign policy thing? I mean, because if it is, more people have been pushed in front of subway trains in New York City than have been victims of anti-Semitism in the entire country at anti-Palestinian protests. Not that anti-Semitism isn't a real thing. Like,
not that it doesn't exist, it does.
People who trash synagogues and stuff. But
of course that exists. Like that shooting, I think, in upstate New York.
I think there's a lot less anti-Semitism at pro-Palestine protests than there is in the world in general. Jews are safer at an anti-Palestine protest than they are walking the streets anywhere else. If you're afraid of anti-Semitism, go find people with keffiyehs and hang out with them.
The whole, remember we were talking about BLS data and how it's manipulated to say, you know, the jobs numbers are great. It's the same thing. I actually looked into this over the weekend, just briefly, cursory looking into, was that how these polls are conducted, to kind of exploit any little thing that could have happened to anybody that identifies as Jewish, practicing, non-practicing, ethnic, or however they choose to identify. So that's one, to identify the pool of who Jewish Americans are. And 2, the questions aren't asked specifically like, has this happened to you? Has anybody clubbed you over the head because you're walking around, you know, wearing a kippah on your head? You know, like, that's not the question. The question is, have you witnessed any? So people are like, and they don't say the time frame, not in the past month, not in the past 16 months. It's like,
and they also include anti-Zionist expression, right? So it's like, or just like, I felt uncomfortable, and often like the ADL and Hillel,
college kids,
they all include any kind of, if you say, oh, I saw like a sign that said from the river to the sea, that is counted as an anti-Semitic act.
Or it could be in jest, where college kids were like, yeah, well, I mean, you know, I was joking with my buddies, and somebody was like, don't Jew that sandwich or whatever, you know, like, And people are, that counts. That counts. Like, that counts as anti-Semitism. Okay. And that's how this is counted. It's just like BLS data, when it's like, if your friend makes a remark, then that counts.
Right. Like, there's a lot of hearsay, right? Like, I heard about a guy who told me that he heard about a lady who, and that's okay.
That's exactly it. It's BLS data, but for anti-Semitism.
It's BLS without the L. All right, let's keep going here. 23andMe has filed for bankruptcy after fighting weak demand for its DNA testing kit and a data breach that affected millions of customers. The biotech firm based in San Francisco has filed Chapter 11 in bankruptcy court in Missouri in order to facilitate a sale. It says it's going to keep operating. The company went public in 2021 when it merged with Richard Branson's SPAC in a deal worth $3.5 billion. The company's stock fell 44% to 79 cents a share on the news. CEO Ann Wojcicki, who co-founded the company 19 years ago, is going to resign.
Wojcicki.
Is that it? Wojcicki? Those Polish names are hard. She'll be replaced by CFO Joe Savage in the interim. Wojcicki's own attempts to take over the company have been rejected several times. Earlier this month, she offered to take the company private for 41 cents a share. The company was dealt a major blow by a data breach 2 years ago that exposed the data of 7 million customers. That's like almost half. 23andMe laid off hundreds of employees, stopped developing all therapies, and agreed to a $30 million settlement over the data breach in late 2024. The primary product of 23andMe, which is that DNA testing kit that lots of people use to try to sort of get the basic sort of roundabout details of a person's ancestry, failed to retain customers due to the one and done nature of the business. In other words, like once you get it, well, then that's it, and you don't come. There's no reason for you to come back. It's almost like if they'd gone on Shark Tank would have told them, but how do you get repeat customers? However,
isn't she like the ex-wife, Ted, of one of the Google founders, like Sergey Brin or something?
I think that is correct.
She's of one of the two guys. I forget which one, but I think she did
manage to get 15. They did manage to get 15 million customers. 85% of them allowed the company to use their data for research. In a statement, the company said that there's going to be no changes to the way it stores, manages, or protects customer data, or I guess given the data breach, doesn't protect customer data. California AG Rob Bonta has been telling residents that under California law, they do have a right, and that applies to everyone around the world, to tell the company to delete their data, and because the company is now going to be up for sale at a fire sale price, and it can go to anyone. I got to say, I don't know if you did this.
I'm a customer.
When I heard about this, I was like, fuck this. I'm not doing it. I'm obsessed with privacy. And I was like, so wait, you tell me I pay hundreds of dollars to give up my privacy? Like, fuck them. They can give, like, and I was like, they should pay me for my DNA. And like, also, they're not going to tell me like, oh, it looks like, there's a 18% chance you have hoof and mouth disease, and that'll develop in the next 16 months. If they don't tell, they know that. They don't tell you your exact DNA, like, like they sort of say, well, you're 12%, from like Asia.
Likely to be from here.
Fuck that. I was like, this whole thing sucks.
Yeah. I was disappointed in that. I was one of these dummies that did this years ago. Like when the company first launched, I was really excited. Because it's kind of fun, right? Because it was kind of fun, and I wanted, honestly, because my grandmother at that point was going senile, and I'd asked her about our heritage and ancestry and stuff, and she, as you know, Ted, with Alzheimer's and dementia, it's a slow creep, right? So at that point, my grandma already had those mental problems. So I wanted to sort of double check if grandma was talking through her dementia ass, or if it was real. So I, whatever information I could glean from it, I paid a couple $100, did the test, not back then, not thinking about my privacy and my DNA and where on earth this might
Yeah, you and I didn't know each other at the time. I would have been like, leave that shit alone.
I mean, we're talking like 15 years ago when the company was brand new, right?
Yeah.
So it was, it was new and novel. And I thought, ooh, science. And, I'm kind of a science geek. I'm an admirer of science.
Yeah, my ex-wife wanted to do it, and I was like, fuck no.
Yeah, little did I know back then the uses for evil that might be out there. And now they have it. So I'm definitely, it's on my to-do list to contact 23andMe and say, listen, fuckers, you better delete all of my data and destroy my spit. Like the spit tube that you have, destroy it all. I gave my permission to 23andMe and Ann Wachitsky, and nobody else is allowed to have it. Whoever purchases this company, that's it, done. So
I mean, seriously, it is amazing to me that people, well, I mean, I understand why you describe why you did it. I get it. But it's like, I just think, it's like, as a rule, you should, if someone's they want your data, they should pay you for it. It shouldn't be the other way around. That I never, I mean, it's kind of super brilliant for them to have gotten, what a con, right?
I know. I fell for it. I thought it was interesting and science and novel and cool.
Yeah, that's what they were counting on.
Yeah, I totally fell for
me. It's like, look, if they were telling me, if they were giving me detailed health information, in other words, they know, right? Like they really. But
I didn't know it was going to be.
They would seriously know. For example, if you had the BRCA gene,
absolutely,
or something, they know, and they're not, and they're literally. Think about how unconscionable it is. Like if a woman has the BRCA gene, they don't tell her. Right. And she needs to know they have that information. Right. And that's just unbelievable to me.
Parkinson's disease.
Or like if I know
about Parkinson's.
Also Alzheimer's, like
Alzheimer's, they just showed it right there.
I know, but they don't specifically tell you everything.
Right. No, they don't. And so
they have all that info.
They have everything. They know. So,
and I know why they don't tell you. I know why they don't tell you, because it's like
they want to upsell you.
Well, it's also the legal liability. Yeah, that's true. It's the legal liability too, right? Like let's say, for example, you're told that they tell you have BRCA. You go and have like a preemptive double mastectomy, the way that Angelina Jolie did, and then like let's say you die under anesthesia, and your spouse sues them. Because it's like, well, she wouldn't have had that if she hadn't found out from 23andMe. Right?
Yeah, well,
so that's why they're not doing it.
Just dumb litigious. Okay, let's move on because we got Tyler in the
wings. Tyler.
It's going to be audio only, Tyler. We hear you, Tyler, or at least quasi.
Wait,
we know
Tyler's
you're there.
Be audio only? Okay, all right.
Yeah, Tyler's audio only.
Okay, that's too bad. But all right, a group of Republican and Democratic senators is pushing the Trump administration to transfer and to ask allies to do the same thing, $300 billion worth of seized Russian assets for Ukraine, and not just do what they were planning to do, which is to use the interest on it in order to help the Ukrainians. How does the administration view using all financial tools at its disposal to increase pressure on Russia to end the war? The senators asked little Marco Rubio. Specifically, does the administration believe that the U.S. and EU-held assets should be used as leverage in negotiations with Russia to bring an end to the war? If so, how? The letter asks. The letter is signed. It's not going to
make things worse.
No, it'll just piss off the Russians even more.
Yeah.
The letter was signed by Republicans Todd Young and Lindsey Graham, and Democrats Richard Blumenthal, who probably should be spending more time discussing his non-existent Vietnam War record, and Tim Kaine, who should probably be spending more time wondering why he was such a crappy VP candidate. He's basically failed. He and Tim and Walls from Minnesota are basically they're the same person basically.
They are. Two Tims. They're the most vanilla, like most boring white cis males that you could pluck out of the Senate.
That's sad.
Or,
and that's
or
saying,
out of government.
That's saying something. Okay, so this is a rare example of Republicans pushing Trump to get tougher with the Russians. Pro-Ukraine Republicans have been largely quiet since Trump moved more toward Russia since taking office. Largely quiet is the way I like these pro-Ukrainians, but I guess unfortunately they can't stop talking. Anyway, after Putin sent troops into Ukraine in 2022, the U.S. prohibited all transactions with Russia's central bank and finance ministry. So they blocked about $300 to $350 billion of sovereign Russian assets. So basically what this is like a lot of big countries, like Russia being one of them, they keep U.S. dollar denominated funds and euro denominated funds in other countries to facilitate business transactions so that you don't have to wire these vast sums of money back and forth. It also helps to hedge against fluctuations in exchange rates. But anyway, these are European, U.S. and British government bonds held in a European securities depository. I don't know why anyone would ever deposit anything into those depositories ever again, given that they take the money. So sources say that only about 7 billion is of that 300 to 350 is actually held here in the U.S. Anything to say about that? I don't have a lot to say, except I think
Lindsey Graham.
Fuck Lindsey Graham.
Fuck Lindsey Graham. He just wants to launder every little bit, squeeze this orange until every last drop is out, and he's going to suck it dry. And if he could launder just the 7 out of the 300 billion U.S. sovereign or Russian sovereign funds that are held here in the U.S., he's going to try to do it because he's in the pocket of the defense industry. So, And
let's face it. I mean, let's predict how much chance is there that Donald Trump? How many shits does Donald Trump give about this letter? Do you think?
0. He used it to wipe his ass.
0.00. It's not even there's not even a rounding error here.
I'm pretty sure it's 0.
Yeah. Okay. And finally, India has lifted its restrictions on rice imports, a move that should help to curb inflation on food and increase the salaries of agricultural workers amid an economic slowdown throughout India. Imposed after the Russia-Ukrainian conflict broke out in order to prevent domestic shortages, those controls drove up prices around the world. As the largest rice exporter in the world, India exports 40% of global rice. India's decision should benefit poorer nations, especially in Africa. That might explain why my Indian order showed up without basmati rice yesterday.
What? Really?
Which I was not pleased about at all.
How could they give you food without rice?
Yeah, I know in LA, by the way, out there in LA, you have to pay extra for the basmati rice. But in New York, in the East Coast, it's part of God's plan that the rice comes free with the Indian food. But anyway,
it's great in New York City. Okay.
Anyway, but maybe this is why. I'm not even kidding. Maybe the rice is so expensive. Sure. They were like, oh fuck it. Anyway, and actually, rising food prices have caused some unrest there in Africa. Anyway, it is going to cause problems for other rice-producing nations like Thailand and Pakistan, which worry that, of course, the increased production will flood the market and that'll cause prices to drop for their own exports. Interesting story for sure.
Yeah, rice. Obviously, staple in my household.
Sure.
And I think that I was just at Costco yesterday and I was looking at the rice prices and I noticed how high they'd gone. And, but lucky for my household.
Have you ever seen them farming it? It's a bitch. I mean, it's hard. You're standing there for hours. With your feet basically in like a foot of gross swampy water.
Yeah, we're looking at it right here.
And then it's done by hand, painstakingly, one grain at a time.
Grain by grain.
You wouldn't waste rice if you saw how it was produced.
Well, this is why in Eastern Asian cultures,
look at them bent over like that.
For me, it's considered basically a sin to throw away a grain of rice.
Yeah.
Because we as a culture, as a rice culture, know the toiling involved in harvesting.
Yeah, there's no way to automate this. This is what you're seeing in the video. If you have the video, is how it's done. It's miserable. I don't know how they avoid getting trench foot, honestly.
And I just can't believe how much rice is produced and that the Indians produce 40% of the global supply. That's nuts.
That is massive. I didn't know it was that big either. I assumed there were other rice producing countries.
I thought we produced some of our own rice. No, America?
I don't know. I don't think we have the climate for it, honestly. The Chinese obviously have shit tons of rice, but they probably have so much domestic consumption that they can't export. Right?
That's true. But like in Florida's wet and swampy like that. Why don't we have rice paddies in Florida?
I don't know. Maybe
I don't know.
maybe the gate might not be quite hot enough. You know, I mean, Florida's not hot like India. And
well, I guess we should look into
that. Or you might not get I don't know. Maybe they do. Maybe it's full of gator rice. I don't know.
Gotta clear the gators to get the rice.
I mean, it's like it makes the farming spicy.
Oh God. With gator meat. Now with gator pee. Okay.
Well, gator meat is good if you ever had it. Yeah.
I have not. But I'm saying they with gator pee because the gators would be,
Oh right. They'd be
all in the patties.
Yeah, that's true.
Maybe it harms the rice. I don't know. I'm just talking out of my ass. Anyway, we're gonna switch gears, go to our main topic. Our buddy Tyler Nixon is waiting on the phone.
Thanks, Tyler.
So let's hop to it.
We talked about earlier top Trump administration officials, including Pete Hegseth, JD Vance, Michael Waltz, who's the national security advisor, set up a Signal group. Signal, for people who aren't familiar, is used by a lot of journalists and other people who are interested in privacy. It's supposedly end-to-end encryption, but I use it. It's a little bit more reliable than WhatsApp. Edward Snowden recommends it. Anyway, they created a group chat called Houthi PC small group, and somehow they either inadvertently or whatever, they added Jeff Goldberg. He's the editor of The Atlantic magazine, and they started chit-chatting about all sorts of the airstrikes that took place in Sanaa, the capital of Yemen, which is controlled by the Houthi faction of the Yemenis. And meanwhile, Goldberg sat there and watched everything. The White House has confirmed that this actually did happen. The chat is authentic. They're looking into how Goldberg got added. I think it's interesting, by the way, that whoever added it had Goldberg's number, right, in order to add it. Like, obviously leaking much. So I looked into this. Obviously, I figured the government must have their own systems for talking about classified shit. And in fact, they do. And it seems like probably the system that ought to have been used here is called JWICS, the Joint Worldwide Intelligence Communications System, managed by the Department of Defense. This is used for highly classified information across agencies. It's fully encrypted. And that's what these guys should have been using. Another alternative, little bit less sensitive, but still an official system, is called CIPRANet, which is the Secret Internet Protocol Router Network. But instead, these wankers used Signal, and so as a result, who knows? The Yemenis, the Houthis might have gotten the jump on things and total security breach, and who knows? They might have come in and. Who knows? We'd all be speaking Yemeni because of this. Let's bring this in. Bring in Tyler Nixon. Tyler Nixon is an Army infantry veteran, counselor at law, constitutionalist, advocate, writer, technologist, critical historian, and extremist in the defense of liberty. Tyler, it's been way too long. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning and Happy New Year. Let me just reiterate, or let me second the emotion of fuck Lindsey Graham, and also. I would also say that I think that the $300 billion in Russian assets is not the only thing Lindsey's trying to suck.
Oh, God, Tyler!
I'll leave it at that.
Not exactly telling a secret out of school there, I think.
Well, I mean, I know, but it's all hearsay. You're a lawyer, Tyler. That's all hearsay.
Yeah, this isn't a court.
Well, Lindsey Graham sucks no matter what. So I mean, he sucks This is such the McCain's protege neocon warmongering chicken hawk, if there ever was one.
Yeah, because if you're trying to make peace, the way you do it is steal the other guy's money.
They love that.
Yeah,
who doesn't love that?
That's a way to stabilize, international money transfers and to have the dollar remain the currency of
and
choice around the world.
Totally for international people to have confidence in the U.S. banking system, obviously.
But the larger question is, the fact of Trump's ignoring these people and trying to broker peace in Ukraine. I mean, it's
I hope you're right.
Yeah, let's hope it happens, because it's really so pointless, and the demonization of, not that Putin's a good guy or anything like that, but I mean, come on, do we really need to drag this war on and to drain everybody's resources? And frankly, the Ukraine government is just a crime syndicate.
Obviously so tied into the Biden family, and that's obviously a whole other story. But like, when it comes to this, Tyler, like, okay, so you're an ex-military guy, you're also a lawyer. Is this, let me just put that out there, like, couldn't this be, and isn't this a violation of the Espionage Act, only because Jeffrey Goldberg happened to, by happenstance, found himself in this group chat? And furthermore, it's on a commercial chat app. Like, it's not, you know what I mean? Like, is this a violation of the Espionage Act because, by virtue of Jeffrey Goldberg, a journalist who he's like TDS to the max, he hates Trump, he somehow wound up in the chat. So now it's an espionage case, no?
Well, I think the investigation ought to be, who the hell would ever give any information to, frankly, Jeffrey Goldberg. I mean, he's, I mean, whether or not this story is true, and I would refer you back to, how they jumped all over General Flynn in the first Trump administration, destroyed him, only to find out it was entirely a setup. So the deep state has plenty of tentacles to operate, and if there's a weak point here, it's definitely Mike Waltz, who, to be honest, he was the one very questionable to me, appointment that Trump made in terms of the national security realm. I viewed him as I've always viewed him as sort of a bit of a sort of I would call him a neocon light. And I just never felt that he was, I mean, he talked a good game, but I always felt that he fell on the side of the sort of Trump resistance on the margins, as well as certainly a war. Well, he's not a chicken hawk because he actually serves or served. And but I just, I felt he was always right there with the DC establishment in terms of the war saber rattling and warmongering. So I did question his appointment. But I mean, the fact that if it's true that he actually included Jeffrey Goldberg, of all journalists possible, I mean, this is just some sort of subversion. It's almost too incredible to believe. I really think there's more to it than this, because Goldberg, I mean, you could not pick a more hostile journalist.
Yes.
And I use the term journalist very loosely, because frankly, a lot of the stuff he peddled, from the Russian collusion nonsense, to any number of stories. If you just read the headlines of his most recent pieces in the Atlantic, which, by the way, is neocon central, home of Natasha Bertrand and other
that's true
hoax peddlers. I mean, that's the last place I would look for any information. And the fact that this is another scandal that they're trying to whip up, with the Democrats in the Senate, of course, jumping all over it. It really starts to reek of a setup, and that's all I can say. I mean, I don't know what manipulations are possible with Signal. Apparently, a national security spokesman did confirm that these are real, but I don't know. I mean, maybe, who's to say? Well, if they were using Signal, I think that's a problem, obviously. Not that Signal is absolutely, I mean, it's not as though someone hacked into it. I mean, he was included on it. So it doesn't mean
somebody added him.
Yeah, exactly. So it doesn't mean that necessarily that Signal is unsafe to use. I mean, obviously it's not
Signal's fault.
Choice. Yeah. No, exactly. But the point is, though, I just find it highly it is, absolutely. But it's highly suspicious that Jeffrey Goldberg, of all journalists, as I say, or so-called journalists, would be included on this. I mean, it just seems like such an obvious setup. So I just question is who's really responsible for it? Maybe someone's somehow spoofed or got access to that Signal chat that was undetected and included Goldberg. I don't know. I mean, they say Waltz added him. does someone have access to Waltz's? I think it's more. This is more about a leak than the fact of someone purposefully including Jeffrey Goldberg. Or, I mean, there's something that has to be investigated here. It seems very, very fishy. It seems like a setup to me.
What I mean, I think a lot is being made, and fairly so. A lot is being made about this, on its face, that of all journalists, of all media people to be involved, that it's Jeffrey Goldberg, right? And why not some random, no-name schmo from, Boise, Idaho or something, right? Like, just of all,
or just any sympathetic journalist,
because they don't know any of those random schmoes.
Like, if
from
this
Idaho.
if this is Mike Waltz's phone, and he originated the chat, right? He's the owner of the chat, and he was adding all of his people to it. Why does he have Jeffrey Goldberg's number in there? So that seems kind of weird. But
so by the way, why? Because these are leakers.
If I may point out,
these guys leak. That's what this reveals.
Ooh, that's true.
Well, I think that's another thing about Waltz is I think he's very accustomed to the DC game and to these sorts of intrigues. But I would note that we have an excellent comment in the chat that noting that Jeffrey Goldberg is the grandson of Rube Goldberg, and this is very much a Rube Goldberg scandal. No,
the great
I don't know who that is.
A brilliant cartoonist.
Oh,
Rube Goldberg
really?
was he was famous for these sort of complex I don't know what you'd call them, contraptions, exactly, that like the ball rolls down the skid and hits dominoes, and it then triggers something else, and it does all the a wheel that turns and dumps. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, it's basically like an unnecessarily complicated machine or system is a Rube Goldberg
does very
machine.
Little to nothing. That does some simple thing like pour your coffee at the end of it.
Yeah, like Wallace and Gromit has a lot of Goldberg machines in it.
So Goldberg was a cartoonist? I didn't realize that.
Yeah, he was famous. That's what he was famous for. He used to draw these like contraptions in his comics.
Yeah.
Well,
I won an award that was where the statue was designed by Rube Goldberg. He didn't die that long ago, and I guess maybe 40 years ago. He was old,
really old.
Cartoonists tend to live a long time.
Wow.
So, and more interesting tidbits from the chat. Director Ratcliffe has just stated that the Signal app has been used and permissible under past administrations as well as the current.
Really?
So there you have it.
Well, okay. So
these are war plans.
Couple takeaways. There are a couple takeaways from this, right? That kind of have me like flummoxed as to like, one, you're talking about war plans on a commercial app, number one. But number two, of all the people that were involved in this chat, the only person that was actually how I define MAGA in there as revealed was JD Vance. The fact that he went right after the Europeans and was like, I'm paraphrasing, but he basically said, what the fuck? Why are we going to do this? Only 4% of the ships that go through there are American, 40% or something like that. 40% of the ships that go through there are European. Like, why the fuck are we going to defend European ships? That's basically what he said in more polite terms, as JD Vance
and that's the most authentic thing about it, frankly. I mean, that Vance is the dissenting voice in the group that's looking to ramp up. Now, I mean, when they say war plans, it's not like, oh, we're going to do this a month from now, or this is our contingency plans in the case of a Russian attack on blah blah blah. I mean, this is like within hours, almost literally, of this being executed, and it's not as though, again, like it was a major.
No, that's not quite true. The reporting is that this chat was about 12 days, and it ran about 12 days ahead of time.
Right. Well, okay. Well, but I'm saying the revelation of anything that was actually operational apparently came in like he said, hours later the bombing began. So it wasn't like as though that could be used for any warning or leak to anybody to have thwarted those plans or hurt. Look, this is a one-time, pretty much a one-time operation, we hope. So I don't, to me it sounds like, again, it sounds like a set. It could be a double MacGuffin, I guess you could call it, where it's like somebody's trying to torpedo Mike Waltz in the administration, which I would have no problem with.
Be. Could be that. Could be. I mean, but a lot of the mainstream press isn't even focused on the actual the content itself. Is that here you have the vice president sticking to the MAGA values, and the MAGA values are basically more aligned with Ron Paul, and not,
Yes.
the media likes to align, the mainstream left media likes to align malign Ron Paul as being this isolationist. He's not an isolationist, but basically that's what I would say MAGA populists believe in, is that we should focus on America, and part of that focus and how you do that is by not fucking around in other countries.
Yeah, I mean, well, I always responded to that as having I put Ron Paul on the ballot, or was his basically campaign manager in Delaware in 2007 and 8, and of course supported him in 12. And he's the godfather of the current Republican Party, as far as I'm concerned. And I would say we are
Pat
not.
Buchanan also, I would say.
To some extent, I think Paul put it out there much more boldly than Buchanan ever did. But I would say non-interventionist is or counter-interventionist is more than isolationist. I mean, come on, what isolates us more from the world community than being the military bully of the world? Honestly, I mean, does anybody think that our neocon driven military misadventures overseas have brought us closer to the world community, have made us more more of a model for the world? I mean, let's get real. I mean, what's isolationist is a ridiculous reactionary term that goes back obviously to those who opposed the interventions, who didn't want to get into World War II, frankly. And it's been made a smear, but I think a lot of people are like, look, I'd rather be isolated in peace than than whatever the alternative is, being the warmongers of the world, the policemen of the world, as Ron Paul would have it. And and I think that's exactly, it shows how I think the MAGA movement is more in step with what most people think, that we don't need to be squandering hundreds of billions, trillions of dollars. If you look at the Afghanistan, Iraq 20-year boondoggle, I don't think that most Americans are inclined to that they think we should be doing that. That's more global-only from the globalists, who are benefiting, as you mentioned, like Lindsey Graham, from defense industry and war industry, really funding and that big fat teat that they want to suck from. And look, I think that's always been the case, because let's face it, it's Americans who have to send their children or see their children go to war and come back, as many thousands did from the Middle East, maimed, if not killed. And I don't think our inclination has ever been towards war, but we've had this sort of alien ideological, very militant, for lack of a better word, and very zealous, overzealous sort of group that got into our foreign policy and defense industrial establishment. That's all about, what is the next war? What can we ramp up? How can we use these munitions? How can we spread death and destruction around the world? And it's I think that's isolated us more than anything else.
I agree. Can we listen real quick to Donald Trump when this first leaked? It appeared as if the president wasn't made aware. I mean, so to me, there's all kinds of weird things happening at this very moment about this particular topic within the administration, because normally your comms team should be on top of this, like white on rice, and they weren't. Because here's how President Trump was caught on his back foot. Listen to how he responds when the press asks him about this.
Mr. President, your reaction to the story in The Atlantic that said that some of your top cabinet officials and aides had been discussing very sensitive material through Signal and included an Atlantic reporter for that. What is your response to that?
I don't know anything about it. I'm not a big fan of The Atlantic. To me, it's a magazine that's going out of business. I think it's not much of a magazine, but I know nothing about it. You're saying that
that's always what he says, stuff like that.
To coordinate on sensitive materials and
having to do with what? Having to do with what? What were they talking about?
With the Houthis.
The Houthis? You mean the attack on the Houthis? Well, it couldn't have been very effective, because the attack was very effective. I can tell you that. I don't know anything about it. You're telling me about it for the first time.
So he heard about it in real time with the rest of the world. What is happening with the whole comms department, Tyler? Because I can tell you, I mean, having worked in this industry, you should have everything monitored at this point. All the media, right? Like somebody should have ran to the president the moment this broke and said, "This happened. We need to prepare some talking points."
I
And
think
here
that
he's caught flat-footed.
well, it reflects that Trump's administration has been brought together by a group of people who aren't a bunch of professional political operators necessarily. And they've hired a lot of new people. I mean, I think they're still getting their legs under them. You got to look at how much they've accomplished just in the past couple of months that they've been in office. And, if this is the worst that's going to happen in the administration and its first, and again, I refer you back to the General Flynn story where they ran something similar to this and buffaloed with Pence, of course, the Quisling leading the charge, and drummed Michael Flynn not only out of the national security advisor position, but had him facing criminal charges for years, which were eventually, thankfully for him and thankfully for the country, overturned, dismissed, whatever have you. And I just look. The fact that it's almost refreshing, the fact that they're doing things that are unconventional. I don't think adding Jeffrey Goldberg to any chat or any sort of comms is a good thing. But look, yeah, again, this is a Washington D.C. tempest in the teapot, and the fact that they're not all over this, and it's not like some big, they're not acknowledging it necessarily immediately because of considering the source. And again, Jeffrey Goldberg, this guy has been one of the worst, not only critics of the Trump administration, but peddlers of every single bullshit story you can think of that was drummed up about Trump, from the Russia stuff to, I forget which particular one that he was the lead guy on. It escapes me, but it was another one of these doozies that was just ridiculous and clearly intended just to kneecap the administration. There's no ameliorative side to it. It's just the usual attack, create this, whip up a scandal, try to put disarray and dissension or division into the administration somehow. But again, I think what's crazy is that the responsible party, if it's true, would be the most sympathetic to the Atlantic's neocon point of view as you can get, which would be, Waltz. I mean, again, he'd probably be the closest to a Lindsey Graham point of view of anybody in there. So I just find it interesting, that they don't care who they take out, because if Waltz indeed did include Goldberg on this, boy, that's a great way to keep yourself in the loop there, Jeffrey. You'd think he'd keep his mouth shut and say, well, this is great.
Right?
I have access to this and can understand what's going on.
I'm sure it was a mistake. I think it was just, I think it's like really easy. We all know that the internet fucks you up. I mean, your phone fucks you up.
Waltz has Jeffrey Goldberg on speed dial? I mean,
well, clearly he does.
That alone means he needs to be he needs to go.
Yeah, that's actually a problem, right? If I were Trump, I might just be like, why do you have this guy as a contact? That would be a problem for me. Okay, so let me ask
and
you.
On Signal, I'm no less. I mean, let's get real here. It's talking about his personal cell phone at this point, not even like an email or just some sort of arm's length. Yeah.
So exactly. I mean, look, here's the thing. I'm not worried about the Houthi. I'm not worried that we'll all be speaking Yemeni. I don't think the Houthis were going to, if they'd known what we were up to, somehow they'd be marching through the streets of New York. But, I mean, but I got to say, what this does, it is a bad look, especially when I think back at security breaches that Hillary Clinton was rightly taken to task over. For example, her emails that were on an unprotected server, using how Hillary used a private email account rather than a government account to conduct government business and try to bypass information that should have ended up in the National Archives after she left office. I mean, that was bad. She shouldn't have done that. And here you have, this appears to be, I wouldn't say, we have no indication that this is widespread behavior. But this is the vice president of the United States. I mean, JD Vance is many things, and I would say one of them is he's a very measured, careful person in terms of his personality.
Would be a good word.
Yeah, meticulous. He doesn't strike me as a slob, and sloppy. So, I know he didn't create this group, and he was just on it. But and he comes off, I think, looking pretty good, but still, it's a bad look for the administration. It's like, this is, it's like it's amateur hour here, and you're doing the same crap that Hillary did.
Well, I have to beg to differ. Hillary Clinton engaged in a systematic and very thought through attempt to circumvent national security protocols to the point of exposing massive troves of top secret information to any hackers that could possibly have access to her private servers in a bathroom. And then when discovered, she attempted to basically spoliate all that that evidence. And destroy it, and committed, many crimes after the fact, including that. I mean, this is a one-time incident, which, Michael Waltz. It's interesting that he, like General Flynn, is the national security advisor, same position, and kneecapped early on, but maybe it's for different reasons, or potentially kneecapped, I guess. I think this is, if it's going to happen, if something like this was going to happen, I would prefer it happen now, early in the administration. And so they can learn from their mistakes. They can tighten things up. Look, it's a giant. I believe Jim Wright used to talk about politics being like nailing jelly to a wall, and I think this is sort of bringing an administration together like this. I think is very much a process like that when you don't have this well-oiled political, typical DC machine. So I mean, I think we can give them some. I'm willing to give some slack here. I think it's nothing close to the systematic, intentional subversion of the classified information system that Hillary Clinton engaged in, which amounted to numerous crimes and were ongoing and prolonged, and including, obviously, as I said, destruction of evidence after the fact, bleach pit, and all that. But it is troubling, and if it means Waltz has to go, like I said, I'm not shedding a tear. But I think, like I said, I'd rather this occur now and concerning this sort of, kind of side trip into Houthi land than concerning major plans or major thoughts coming, and strategy or strategic discussions from within the administration.
Well, I mean, should Trump drop the axe just swiftly to kind of like set precedent, you think, that, these kinds of junior varsity mistakes are not prohibited in the big leagues? Like, you can't do this.
Yeah, I mean, I think that somebody's got to pay for it. I mean, the question is, what is Trump's? How does it's really going to come down to Trump, what Trump thinks, and how much damage they can do. I tend to think a story like this in the first Trump administration obviously would have been very damaging because of there were so many insiders willing to pile on that he had, brought into the administration at the behest of, a lot of Beltway denizens, and a lot of mistaken, frankly, I've never seen anybody of that stature in terms of, a position in government who had so many quislings within his midst and that were brought in, and people, and not even just people who are maybe not on board or sort of, wishy-washy about. No, they were actively subverting him from within. I'd never seen that much, but I don't think it's going to be quite that. So I think they're a little desperate, and this second term is quite different. And so I think there's a desperation to try to do the same kind of things they did to him, whether it be, the call with Zelensky, which to me, it's like, it was perfect. I mean, Trump, it sounds exaggerated. He said that was a perfect phone call, but you know what? It really was. It was what he should have been doing as president, investigating the corruption of the former vice president involving a foreign leader, and in which we are, potentially waging a proxy war, for God's sake. So I think this really kind of reflects in the larger scheme of things how badly they're scraping bottom. Meaning like the people are trying to get Trump.
I feel like in the next signal, they're going to move over to Telegram, the next Telegram chat about Ukraine.
Believe it or not, the most secure encrypted end-to-end messaging service is Facebook. I couldn't believe it when yeah, if you look it up, they're the most secure because they're completely self-contained. And this is what I read in several sort of tech oriented articles. It wasn't like really. Yeah.
Yeah, that's relatively new, but it's been like a few years, like 4 years or something.
Yeah, because they own end to end all the, it's like I said, it's all self-contained within Facebook or Meta, so they're not relying on any sort of outside resources for
Signal's not really 100%.
No, it isn't.
Well, the next chat is probably going to involve Alexander Vindman, and on Telegram when they talk about Ukraine. So. So I feel
exactly.
None of this makes any sense. The whole operation in the bombing boggles my mind, because I'm with JD Vance on this. It's like, how is that in the U.S. interest when only 3% of the ships that go through there are American? The rest, it's 40% that goes to its European interest. So I don't know. I guess this maybe allays some of the concerns that the Europeans have about, I don't know, is the U.S. still our friend because they want to dump Ukraine? I mean, doesn't this kind of allay their concerns a little bit then? Maybe this is like, that's why the act in and of itself is, not the texting, but I mean, the fact that we went to bomb Yemen was more on behalf of protecting European interests.
Well, it's about global commerce, right? I mean, the argument in favor of it kind of goes back to the very first, U.S. Military conflict, right? Which is against the Barbary states that were attacking American shipping in the southern Mediterranean in the very early 1800s under Thomas Jefferson, and he decided to deploy troops to basically say, cut it out. Let our ships go through. This is about keeping, the U.S., both Democratic and Republican administrations have always wanted to keep the Strait of Hormuz open, and the Houthis have been fucking with it. So I see the U.S. interest. I mean, the U.S. is part of the global economy. It wants oil and other stuff to go through the Strait of Hormuz.
The Houthis are only, Ted, the Houthis, as you and I'm sure we're on the same page here, the Houthis have only resumed these acts of piracy since Israel has walked back the strikes in Gaza.
I'm highly sympathetic to them politically. I'm just saying that from the standpoint of the U.S. system, which does not exist to do right. It exists to promote the oligarchy and keep, the powers that be feeding off the trough. And that includes the defense industry, but a bunch of other businesses. I mean, the business of America is business, or more accurately, big business and big corporations. And so I think that's what this is about. It's about commerce, global commerce.
Yeah, I would also say that the war machine is something that can get rusty if it's left. I mean, there's only so much training you can do to to stay on top of sort of operational, what's the word, I guess, readiness as well as just, ground experience. So I guess this is
and plus it's demoralizing, right? For if the military doesn't get to blow things up now and then, nobody wins any medals, nobody gets promoted.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, it's a kinetic operation. It enables the machine to, to work and to see how it works. And so I think, better it be this than some ground war in Europe. I mean, if we have to do this, if this has to be something that, that sort of the weight and the girth of the defense establishment, has to occasionally pop off and show what it can do. And then, like I said, better it be this than something else. Exactly. Flex.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I guess I guess there is the point of flexing, and it's not much of a flex if you're doing what Lindsey Graham says is like, steal the $300 billion from the Russians, steal it, take it. That's not much of a flex, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, Lindsey is just, we need a major primary opponent for this guy to get rid of him one way or the other. He's just, he's like the ghost of McCain's ass, frankly.
And then you get Pete Hegseth, who's trying to back up his buddy Waltz, who's like, I don't know.
So who gets fired here? Waltz?
Very JV.
Oh, I think Waltz is on the chopping block. He's the one who caused all this, and then not only the fact of the leak again, but who it's to. I mean, my God, like of all the people you could possibly, and what was he thinking? What was he thinking?
Well,
I mean,
let's talk about Goldberg. I mean, does he have any legal? I mean, I think he certainly has ethical exposure. He has journal. I mean, so here's the thing. Okay, so if
you're a fly on the wall, is that
if you're a fly on the wall?
Unethical?
I mean, of classified information. I mean, it's kind of like a few weeks ago, I found a wallet on the streets of New York. I didn't keep it. I took it to the police department and dropped it off. I mean, it's sort of like it's not mine, right? I mean, it's like if I'm a big critic of the American system, but I know that if I happen to be brought into, I know what I would do if I were brought in accidentally to a classified discussion of this level, unless it was exposing malfeasance on the part of the government, like these guys were plotting something illegal, in which case I would feel like my ethical duty was to expose that as a journalist. I would contact the government and tell them, listen, guys, look, you guys did this accidentally. Take me off.
Yeah. Yep. Thank you. And the fact that and he's not unsophisticated, to say the least. He knows and understands what he was in on, and the fact that
he could have just left the group, right?
Exactly. He could have just said, "Hey, I'm out of here." And the fact that again, his immediate impulse was, rather than notify the administration and say, "Listen, this is a problem, and you guys need to address this," he immediately took it to some big scandalous story. Again, tells me there's something more to this than just Jeffrey Goldberg. I mean, you have to look at it through the eyes of a sane, rational person, not the DC scandal machine, and realize that you have to say what. I mean, does this seem plausible, really? I mean, again, it's going to come down to what is Mike Waltz's comment on it, and that's what I'm waiting to hear. Is what were you thinking? I guess
I think it's plausible. I mean, I don't know. I mean, Tyler, you may well be right. It may be, it's just a conspiracy or something wrong. But I mean, it reminds me kind of like, is it plausible that a dude would do a Zoom call with while jerking off with no pants on with a bunch of people from the New Yorker? Well, apparently it's plausible. Apparently
one of the more and one of the more odious pustules I think in the Jeffrey Goldberg vein of ethical and credible journalists, Jeffrey Tubin.
I mean,
another
Jeffrey. Crazy shit happens. That's all I'm trying to say.
Oh, good Lord!
Definitely an opportunist for sure.
It shows you the degenerates we're dealing with behind the fancy.
He's back on the op-ed page of the New York Times.
I know, of course.
Tubin?
You can never fall too far.
No.
Apparently masturbating in front of your colleagues on video isn't enough to be.
Hey, there were only like 30 of them, and there were only like 20 of them were women, so it's no big deal.
Oh, God.
Yeah, no, of course. I mean, shame has long been dead and killed. I think since the Clintons oozed into town.
Is he back on CNN, Tubin?
I think he has been. I recall seeing him.
He lost the New Yorker gig. That's the only thing that happened, really.
Yeah, and I do agree with the well-dressed nerd here that, frankly, Goldberg should be prosecuted for. I mean, look, he knew it. He knew
in the chat.
He's written right in his story his total awareness of what he was looking at and the information he was in on.
But he claims though, guys, that he thought he was being punked, that like somebody was trying to
the whole thing was a hoax and disinformation.
I could see him thinking that, actually.
So I get it. I don't shade him too much for that, because I would get it too. I would be suspicious too. I mean, I get weird random text messages and emails.
Although if I thought I always, when I'm on, I do too. Usually involving 800 people trying to sell me crypto. But I immediately just leave the group, right? Immediately. I can't be bothered.
Well, I mean, the thing is, it comes down to, what did he do when it dawned on him that it was real? Did he immediately, was his concern for the national security, for like, oh my God, like these people need to know that I've been included in this, whether it was inadvertent or otherwise, and that I've been exposed to this information, I tracked it, I followed it, and that they need, an operational review and to tighten this up. No. He immediately whips up a very, very caustic story for the Atlantic, which, for all its fancy fonts and foofras, is the hoax machine, as well as the neocon war machine propaganda tripe or rag.
No defense of
yeah, I mean, I think
Atlantic.
it would be like, I think it would really depend. It's true, his state of mind, right? Like, let's just say, like, he discovered, like, oh, these guys are planning to assassinate a foreign leader, and they're talking about it. Now, that's illegal.
Right.
As a journalist, I think it's your duty to stay on and gather that information.
No, your your distinction in terms of what they were talking about, that's absolutely critical, and it's very astute. And look, I mean, like I said, it was. I don't think it was a problem for him to stay on the chat and follow it. But again, when he realized, hey, there's nothing illegal here. This is just I've been included.
Pause that thought, Tyler. So because you're an attorney, you're a constitutionalist. So okay, so let's say I'm here in DC. Let's say I go to one of these fancy restaurants and the table next to me is all these people, is Tulsi Gabbard, is John Ratcliffe, is Mike Waltz, all these people, and my back is turned to them, and I'm earshot of everything.
And they're loud.
And I could hear them, and I could hear every word of this. Would that be wrong of me as a journalist to keep eavesdropping while I'm eating my steak and just listening, just hearing every last drop? Would that be somehow unethical?
No, because they're not making, well, first of all, they're obviously egregious and ridiculous and ever discussing. I mean, that's a bit of an exaggerated example, but no, I mean, if they're discussing it in public and anyone within earshot can overhear it, I mean, that's their bad.
To make matters worse,
something has to be. I mean, you can't classify something.
Shouldn't you turn around and? I mean, I would say just morally, you should turn around and say, "Hey, Tulsi,
what the hell are you thinking?
Keep it down."
Tulsi, I can hear you.
Put down with that attack Ukraine plans.
But I mean, to make matters worse, it would be more like if I was sitting at the table or they invited me to come sit at the table and talked amongst themselves anyway. That's kind of what happened.
That is kind of what happened.
Well, it's more like, exactly. Or it'd be more like they were in a skiff and somebody cracked the door and let you in and nobody noticed you in the room.
I mean,
and then there's just everybody presumed signal was, and Ratcliffe said, according to one of the chat people in the chat, that signal has been used by previous administrations, and the current administration has been acceptable. Whether whether for war plans, I mean, or war, not war. I mean, he says war plans. War, yeah, okay, sure, right. When was the last war we declared in this country? I mean, give me a break. That alone, that language, that is alone, to me, sensationalist and more of an attempt to make this more than it is.
Well, the big reveal here is that these are top-ranking government officials using private, non-official channels to communicate official, important government business that they shouldn't be doing. I mean, that's really. Well,
you mean the business
using Signal? Signal.
They shouldn't be using Signal, right? No, I agree. I think though there has to be the ability to have within any administration, which would have formerly been everybody getting together in a room, the ability to have informal or very candid, as JD Vance demonstrated, dialogue in the terms of the execution of plans or operations, without every single thing being subject to some sort of disclosure or taken down or having a transcript
archives
of it. Right, exactly. I mean, I think there have to be the ability to have an informal, again, dialogue like this. And I think, obviously there were probably, I wonder if there's an actual official sort of version of all this, in terms of informing the relevant officials, that were involved in it, what was going on. In other words, keeping them apprised, what was said to Trump about it. But, I mean, the government will cease operating. I mean, let's face it, how much back channel crap like this went on in Trump's first term that was literally subversive of the president himself and his administration.
Well,
it could be on bordering on sedition. Yeah, exactly.
And how often does it just generally happen in all administrations that there's all this unofficial, back and forth that is done, off the grid in formats that are less than secure?
Yeah, absolutely. And the problem is nowadays you have these, again, back in the day, I'm sure before the age of the electronic information age and encrypted cell conversations and the ability to have these communications, they would have to get together in a room somehow. I mean, I don't think they would ever trust doing things over the phone. With J. Edgar Hoover, Lewis, certainly during that era, that 48 years of dismal whatever law enforcement practices, to say the least.
Yeah, well, in that case, nothing is secure, nothing is safe, nothing can be out of the public view. I mean, that's just kind of the state of surveillance that we live in.
Well, interestingly, if any of our adversaries were going to target a system for incursion and to breach it and to be able to have access to it, it would be the systems that are set up supposedly to do this, to enable these types of conversations, these types of dialogues, without obviously prying eyes. But so ironically, I mean, if they wouldn't think to necessarily target or be able to have access to a signal, although maybe our law enforcement, they have to know what's going on. You'd have to, Goldberg could have potentially breached that and given access to foreign powers to it and so forth. But I don't know that our government systems, as been proven over and over, are necessarily any better than what is offered commercially in terms of encrypted communications. Yeah. Let's face it.
Yeah, everything is hackable in the 21st century. Everything, everyone. I mean, and there's weirdos that want to hack it, like your kid's nanny cam, like your pet cam, right, on their automatic food feeder. That was like the newest thing. I don't know if you guys heard about that. It was just like scaring people's pets with like.
Good Lord.
So mean. I don't.
There are some really sick freaks out there. There are
freaking weirdos out there.
How do they scare the pet?
Well, I know that there was one instance where it was like there was a school district that had given all the kids laptops, and they had access to the cameras on the laptops, so they could watch these people's homes and children at home.
Gross.
So I mean, it's not even just a bunch of weirdos. It can be officialdom that does this kind of thing.
Yeah, people that have access already. I mean, it's just that's a whole different conversation that we should talk about, like the future of privacy, Tyler, because I know you're big on that. I became big on that. I became later, and this is why I've become increasingly more analog, and I just
like 23andMe and the rest of the world.
Oh my God!
Yes, we were just talking about that.
Tyler, did you ever do 23andMe?
Hell no.
Yeah.
I was duped like 15 years ago. I did.
I was tempted. I'll say I wasn't as though I was
sure.
Categorically opposed to it. It would have been interesting information to have, but I thought, I don't know, but this company seems a little shady.
Yeah, you can't trust private industry with your personal data, and nothing's more personal than DNA.
I don't know if we can trust government either. So,
well, there's that too.
Yeah, well, exactly. So, I mean, what can you trust? If you're gonna have weirdos spooking Clovis, Ted, with his automatic,
there's gonna be trouble. That's
right.
Gonna come through.
Clovis doesn't take shit anyway.
No, there's gonna be serious fucking problems.
People are weird, and there are hackers that want to hack into everything, and how they're doing the food feeder.
Yeah, like the smart homes. I mean, there's all these. Yes. You can kill people, right?
But that's how,
cranking up their temperature, or just or just fuck with them. Like they're away,
hacking someone's pacemaker.
Sure.
That's like been in TV shows I've seen, but the food feeder thing is how it works is so you have a different camera watching your camera.
Do you know about the sex toy thing? There's a kink where people they have this. There's like a woman will wear a thing that goes into her thing, and then her partner will activate it, and sort of like, oh, that's just funsies. Like remotely, from his iPad, from somewhere else, like from the other side of the world. Like,
is this like for phone sex
I even did a
something?
cartoon about it when it came out like years ago. Like, oh, what if she's like a pilot or something? And so
my God,
so she unexplained crash, and I was
it's like the sex wearable.
Oh, God, good Lord.
I was like, what won't they think of next when Bluetooth goes wrong, right? I mean,
yeah.
That's what they're doing with the pets and kids nanny cams. It's like like Clovis will come to the food feeder, and it'll trigger on your phone, right? Clovis came to eat at his thing.
Yeah, and by the way, I don't need that information at all.
And
I'm just saying, I don't care.
I have a girlfriend in the pet industry, right? So it's like a $6 billion industry in the U.S., right?
It's
huge.
Oh, no question.
So
I'll tell you,
the food feeder will trigger, and you guys will see that your pet came to eat, and then and then they have a different camera in the house, right? A nanny cam, a pet cam in the living room, and they caught people yelling at the dog or cat, being like, "Hey, Fido, sit your ass down," like some weird. It's and the dog's like spooked because it's a different voice. The dog's like, "What the hell? Who? That's not bad. Like, what is this?" And then
that's the kind of stupid shit I would have done when I was drunk in college, for sure.
This is like people are foolish to wire their houses with all this access with these cameras. Like I mean, let me tell you something. A simple little roll of electrical tape is a wonderful thing. I mean, you can cover anything, any camera immediately with just a little swatch of electrical tape. So there's your
I don't believe in that stuff at all. Yeah.
In electrical tape?
Not the indoor.
No, I believe in that. I don't believe. I'm with you. I don't believe in wiring your house so that.
Yeah, no, I think it's excessive. People are like, I mean, everything smart
people
appliances.
Have remote. Do you know that there's Bluetooth? There's if you buy a new washer and dryer, it has Bluetooth in it to control it. What for? Why?
Smart meters alone, exactly. I mean, who needs a dishwasher with a cam in it? I mean, dishwasher cam. I mean, come on, people. It's excessive.
Yeah, it's like, get a grip. Yeah,
no, I don't know. I don't know. Probably is somewhere. Probably.
Yeah, washer dryer. You know what? I'm just gonna trust in Allah to wash my. I'm gonna go and check it out 45 minutes later, and hopefully the basement's not flooded, and I'm all right.
But first, Allah must solve the basmati rice shortage crisis in Manhattan.
That isn't. No, that's seriously it's an issue.
If you don't get the basmati, that would piss me off, Ted. I would give a bad Grubhub review. Just saying.
I was not pleased.
Anyway, we should leave that.
I don't know. I agree with Manila. How the hell do you eat Indian food without rice?
Yeah. If you don't have rice, what are you eating? Just it's like soup.
It's bleak.
Yeah, well, I can imagine if you like it spicy, your tongue's gonna be on fire after a certain point because get the rice to cut it a little bit.
If not rice, they should have given you at least extra naan. That's
true.
Yeah.
So true.
So before we go, what would be your favorite dish? I'm not very versed in Indian. I've had dishes, but I'm always listening, open to suggestions.
My go-to is usually chicken tikka masala, like most people probably.
Butter chicken.
I also like a shag paneer, which is like spinach with cheese in it.
Oh, I thought it was called palak paneer. Palak.
Well, that's a different thing. And then I also
I like that one too.
And if you go to one of the Pakistani run ones, and you can get beef, I like beef tomato.
Oh yeah, yum.
Good
stuff.
Wow.
I'm also a big puree fan, which is the big puffy bread. So good.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm a paratha man. I like that. Oh, good mulligatawny soup. Nothing like it.
Do you go to the real soup Nazi? Is that guy still around? And
I think that guy's gone.
Is he?
Yeah,
he was carted off. He was deposed. His regime was
his reign of terror.
Yeah, the war crime, the Nuremberg trials, and the soup Nazi took place, and he's gone.
Exactly.
That's a shame.
Yeah.
Well, hey, thanks for having me.
Thank you so much, Tyler.
Fun.
It's always a blast. We haven't had you on in a while, of course, so we had to bring you onto this because you're both, a constitutionalist, ex-military. You're all parts of this story. You get it.
I'm also he has all the things.
I'm a pretty well-versed expert on the JFK assassination, so I was surprised you guys didn't reach out.
Really?
Oh,
you didn't know that?
All right, we'll come back on. We'll talk about the JFK.
Oh, absolutely. No, I've been featured in several. I did a number of spaces on X over the topic, and I would rival pretty much some of the top experts
without
in terms
giving
of
anything
detail.
away. Just yes or no. Did you think that the new documents revealed anything of interest?
No.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I'm not.
And to me, of interest would be dispositive, something that says absolutely. Now we know this element of the crime. No, what we got was more disinformation inserted into the record, attempting to peddle the Cuba, Russia behind Oswald narrative, which is all completely multiple layers of falsehood.
Well, I would like to do that, an episode about that, because I don't actually know that much about the JFK assassinations and
I'm
or any of
fascinated by it.
I don't know that much about it, so I would love to pick your brain from a
Also,
from a
I mean, I'm also
novice
intrigued by
standpoint.
the RFK thing. I mean, the
Yes, I was going to
Sirhan
say
thing
that's
is very,
yeah.
very weird.
That's another
That was
one,
weird.
as well as MLK. Frankly, I'm looking forward more to those disclosures. Although there was apparently quite a bit of MLK related material that was either interspersed with or released with the JFK stuff.
There's a little bit of RFK, but there wasn't a lot.
No, because it was handled by the even more corrupt organization than CIA, which was the Los Angeles Police Department.
Ted knows.
Don't get me started.
Don't get him.
Which was, by the way, infiltrated by the CIA anyway, or was had the CIA operators within its midst, more than probably any other law enforcement organization next to NYPD.
I got that book behind me, Chaos, there, right? About like the Manson family and all these weird, like 1960s, whatever. So I can tell you some weird things.
It was a crazy
being an LA
time.
native.
Yeah, for sure.
It was a crazy time, and the LAPD
in a crazy town.
Knowing about Manson,
like the Terry Morey stuff. Do you know about that?
A lot of weird.
Do you know? I mean, Tyler, I bet you know who Terry Morey was, but there's a Netflix 4 or 5 part series about him. But he wrote a book called The Ultimate Evil, and he was a New York City tabloid reporter, like hard charging, ass kicking, 70s guy. Anyway, he basically drew a link between Son of Sam, the Stanford University chapel murder, which is one of the most gruesome things ever to have happened anywhere, and
like Tavistock or something.
Yeah, and the Manson family.
Oh yeah,
and basically
mind control gone awry, I believe.
He's alleging that basically there was a cabal of super rich, bored, drug-addled assholes who were basically unleashing serial killers all over the country.
Wouldn't surprise me one bit. I will say that one thing that has come out in the JFK documents, or points to, there's a lot of traces of it, and perhaps might indicate why there's been such a lid of secrecy held on these documents for so long, is the potential involvement of Israel in the assassination, or Israeli intelligence, the Mossad, elements of Mossad in the assassination of President Kennedy.
See, that's what I would like to know more of. And again, I really know just the surface stuff, and I have some, gut feeling and inclinations towards this. So I would love to. I didn't know that you were an assassination-er. I don't know what do you guys call yourselves? The guys that are
they used to be called buffs, or like, I mean, I would call Stone introduces me as a top researcher and
Kennedy
not expert, I would say.
buff?
I'm not, because I haven't I've not published anything, but I mean, I've attended conferences. I mean, I've interviewed witnesses from to the assassination, and talked to become friends with some of them, actually.
Really?
Not many are left. I've met some of the surgeons who worked on Kennedy, when he was
that's so cool,
trying to revive him, as well as witnesses to the autopsy.
Wow. I had no idea, Tyler. I had no idea that was like a thing of yours, that you fancied that.
Yes, one of my many sort of undisclosed talents, I guess you could say.
You are
pieces of information.
Fascinating guy. Fascinating guy. So, well, now we know all the myriad of weird things that Tyler Nixon's into and can talk about. I would like to know more about it. So I would actually like to talk about that on one of these. We'll do an evergreen.
Yeah, we could absolutely answer all your questions. I think we have pretty much. I mean, I'm not one who jumps in 100% on any one of the potential scenarios. To me, it's all a matter of probabilities and what is the most likely, and pulling back to the big picture, what who had the incentives and who had the capability. Sure. I mean, it comes back to just like any murder situation, means, motive, opportunity, and that really tells you what you need to know.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna have to do that one, Ted. How about it?
I'm all about it. Let's do it.
I'm game.
All right.
I'm game.
Anytime.
That people are fascinated by.
Hopefully,
it's
not another 4
later.
months.
Yeah. No, yeah. Let's do
that
this
soon.
All right.
Okay.
Very soon.
Well,
Sounds
Tyler
good.
Nixon, thank you so much. Tyler Nixon, if you are unfamiliar, is an Army infantry veteran, counselor at law, constitutionalist. He's an advocate, a writer, technologist, critical historian, and extremist in the defense of liberty, and of course, in privacy. That's another whole other episode too, because I'm now big on that. After I spat in the tube 15 years ago and sent it to 23andMe. Tyler Nixon, thank you so much. Always a blast to have you, my friend.
Great to be with you. Thanks, Ted Manila.
Thanks, Tyler.
Take care.
Talk to you soon.
Bye. Well, who'd have known? Well, anyway, that was a fun episode. There are calls now from Democrats coming through my phone. It's showing news saying calls for Waltz, Hegseth, and Gabbard to resign. Gabbard, like, why does Tulsi Gabbard have? She was just why? Why are they?
Tulsi Gabbard, was she even on the call?
She was on the chat group, but like all of the Trump admin, like officials were on it, including Stephen Miller and like Susie Wiles. So what are you trying? Are these people now just looking for an opportunity to tank the entire Trump administration and say the whole administration needs to step down, even though they didn't create the chat group? Mike Waltz did. So
yeah, I would say, look, I mean, obviously, Democrats are going to go for as much low-hanging fruit as they can.
Yeah.
But I don't blame them for that. But truth is, this is Waltz's fuck up. I mean, he created the group. That's it.
Own it.
That's it. I mean, you could honestly say that the others should have been like, hey, we're not supposed to talk about this stuff on Signal.
Right. Somebody could have dissented. Yeah. Vance, only dissenting voice on the action itself, number one. And number two, nobody else, including Stephen Miller, who is like, this super egghead and by the book and whatever. Stephen Miller commented and chatted in there, and he also didn't dissent by saying, hey, we shouldn't be doing this here. Like, this isn't the forum.
Right. They should have been on that, joint worldwide intelligence communication system. That's what they were supposed to do.
That sounds fun. Susie Wiles, the chief of staff, was on there.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. What this reveals is, it's the tip of the iceberg. That all these guys, and I'm sure it's not just Trump, all these government officials are using private communications.
Of course they
instead,
are.
And I'm not surprised, but they shouldn't be.
And 100%, they have like dummy accounts where they tweet and chat with their friends
under
and talk shit
pseudonyms
publicly. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, they're a bunch of little gossip girls.
Of course, this is DC. I don't know because I don't have evidence of it, but because I know the people and have been on Capitol Hill for a couple of years, I know that these people love to talk.
They do. It's what they do. It's all they do.
And everyone is undermining everybody. Everybody is ladder climbing. Everybody. That's why the saying in DC goes, if you want a friend in DC, get a dog.
Get a dog. Or a cat.
Get a dog.
But then you have your dog, but then the dog's freaked out because your enemies hacked into their water bowl.
That's true. Or you have Biden dogs and it's bitey and it bites everyone.
That's true. That dog is no one's friend.
No, it wasn't I'm telling you, it's not the dog's fault. It's the owner. The dog behaves accordingly.
Yeah, and there's video of Joe Biden kicking Commander.
Oh.
Yeah, he abused the dog.
Oh my God. So not only is he an asshole to his staff, he was an asshole to his pets.
It's not surprising, right? He's a dick.
Oh my God. Well, I'm a dog person. I like cats too, but I'm more of a dog person. Oh my God. Now I really, really dislike Joe Biden. Like, it's a dog abuser. Ugh.
Yeah, he's a dog abuser.
Good riddance. Anyway, that's it for Ted and I. We'll be back tomorrow, 10 a.m. Eastern. Thank you guys. Make sure you hit the like button if you haven't done so already. Like, get with it, dude. Smash that like button, as Jamal Thomas says. Smash it. And follow and subscribe. We'll be back tomorrow, 10 a.m. Eastern. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I'm Manila Chan. Ted Rall over there. Adios, amigos.
Au revoir. À bientôt.
See you tomorrow.